Okay, so we're back. So in the first part, we created this grade sheet. We applied some formatting to the cells. We did some conditional formatting. And now we're going to take our grade sheet and we're going to add to this grade book another useful function for any kind of an instructor, and that's an attendance page. So to do that, we need to add another page or another sheet to this workbook. So we're going to add this worksheet by clicking the button down here on the bottom where it says there's a little circle with a plus in it. And if you hover over it, it says new sheet. Go ahead, click that, and it gives us sheet 2. I'm going to right click on that and select rename and change that to say attendance. Okay, now I could come in here and I could type each one of these names again, and I can put all the numbers in and all that, but I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm simply going to copy this table, and I'm going to right click and select copy, and then I'm going to come back in here, back to A5, right click and select paste. Okay, so now I'm notice that there are some errors here. Number one, this grade means nothing anymore. And as a matter of fact, I only need 4 columns for right now. So I'm going to highlight those and right click. And now I can delete these columns. So if I want to do that, boom, it's gone. Likewise, I can also, if I choose to, I could right click on a row, simply click on the row or the column heading, and it'll highlight the entire thing, and right click and select delete. Now if I want to do that with one single cell highlighted, I can right click and I can select delete, and notice there's 3 dots. The 3 dots will give me the option to either shift the cells below it up, so it just gets rid of what was in that one cell and moves everything below it up, or I can delete the entire row or the entire column. I'm not going to do any of that in this case. Okay, so now I also want to delete this data that's in here. So I'm going to right click on that, highlight it, right click, and instead of delete, I'm going to clear the contents. So I could do that by selecting clear contents here. I can also simply hit the delete key and it takes care of that. So either way, I can right click on this, click clear contents, and it's gone. Okay. Another thing we want to resize these columns. So again, I can drag these columns out to resize them, or I can just double click and they will auto size perfectly. So in here, I want to change the dates. I actually want to, or I should say, I want to change the column headings, and I want to put 4 dates in here. It doesn't matter what the dates are, but they should be different class dates. So we'll pick a particular week. Maybe it's this week here. So we'll take a look at our calendar. So today's Thursday. We'll say 3/22. Actually, 3/23 was Monday, so we'll say 3/23. And notice Microsoft Excel automatically picked up that it was a date. So even though I put 3/23 in there, it picked up that it was a date. And so now I don't have to type those dates in. Excel's pretty cool. It's magic. It's intuitive. And if I simply grab this fill handle or this drag handle and I drag them across, notice it puts these hash marks in there. The hash marks mean, hey, the column's a little too narrow. So I can double click each one and boom. Now, maybe I don't want this European or military style date. Maybe I want a different date format. So I can highlight this section, and where it says number here, I'm going to go to the number group, go to the Home tab, number group. I'm going to click the launcher, and I'm going to select the date category, and now I can change that format to pretty much anything I want. I want, instead of 23 March, I want it to say March and then the date. Excuse me. Of course, I don't want it to say 2012, but we could also use something a little friendlier like 3/14, 3/23, and that's the format that we're going to use. Okay, And there we go. Simple, huh? Okay, so now we need to fill in some data. Well, first let's go ahead and give this a title. Now, notice on the grade sheet up here, we actually created one cell. We actually merged all the cells up here and then just centered the word grade sheet. I'm going to do the same up here. I'm going to merge all the cells above this. So I'll do merge and center, and I'll call this attendance. Okay, and then we can give it a formatting. I'm going to change these. I'm going to flip these formattings around. I'm going to take this formatting down here, use my format painter, and paint that up there, and simply center it. Whoops, I am going to have to merge and center again. There we go. And then maybe make that font a little bit bigger. 24 point is big enough. Okay. And I'm going to flip, like I said, I'm going to flip this around. So I'm going to use this format here, the one I used on grade sheet, and I'm going to select Format Painter and simply format these cells like that. Whoops. So we definitely don't want to do that. Let's try that again. Okay, so we'll go to grade sheet. We have that cell selected still. We'll select Format Painter, and we'll just make this first one. Wow, it really does not like that. Okay, so we can go back, change it again. Again, I can come back and use a style. I can also change the fill or the font or anything, and change that to look however I want. So I look at my fill, and I'm just going to change the fill color. Oops, we don't want to do it. We don't want any background color. I'm going to change the pattern color. Use a darker blue for that, with a 25% gray. Click OK, and then we'll apply that to all of these. Okay, we will have to go back and reapply our date. Okay, and let's make that font red. Perfect. Okay, makes it pop out. Again, whatever style you want is fine. And make this look good. Okay, so now let's put some data in here. So for my project, I want to put in some data that's meaningful, and I want to make all of this stand out. I want to put in data if somebody's absent or they're tardy. I'm going to put that information in here. If they're present, we'll just assume that they're present. So let's go ahead and add some absences and tardies. Again, we want to format, whoops, don't want to drag that. I want to format this whole section. And I'm going to put everything in the center and the bottom. So come up to the Home tab alignment group, align center, and then up above I want to use a bottom align. That way it just sits on the bottom of that cell. Okay, something else we could do, if you choose to, we can actually highlight these cells and apply a border. We can put all borders around. That way we have everything lined up in a grid. I like to center these columns because I'm going to have the data centered in here. The last name and first name probably look better aligned to the left. But now we're just going to use a capital letter. So I'm going to turn on the caps lock. And I'm just going to add some absences and tardies. Now notice this is, if any baseball fans notice, these names are a little bit old. They're from a couple seasons ago. Working with some old data here, so bear with me. Haven't gotten any new stuff on here yet. Oops. This should all be centered. Let's try this again here. Perfect. Okay, now we got everything centered. Um, okay, so now we have our absences and tardies recorded. Now I need to analyze this data. Now I could, if I wanted to, I can put another column in here and say absent. Oops, I guess I need to turn off caps lock, absent and tardy. And I'm going to highlight that section, format paint, and do the same thing over here. Okay, so now if I want to count, if I want to count this this row, I can come over here and go, okay, I have one absence here, one tardy here, I have one tardy and 0 here, and it's very tedious. I have a computer here. This computer is capable of doing the work, and we're going to tell it how to do that. So we're going to look at another function, and it's called the countif function. So I'm going to start that function by typing the equal sign, and then I'll start typing C, and notice it gives me an option or a whole list of options down below. And I'm going to select the countif option, and notice it says counts the number of cells within a range that meets the given condition. So I double click that, and it says range and criteria. So I want to select a range. Remember, a range is a group of cells, and we're going to just highlight that group. In this case, the cells in ranging from D6 to G6. Okay, and then the criteria. Again, if we marked absences by using the capital letter A, so I'm going to, in quotation marks, put a capital A and close it. And that A is a criteria. Now, if I copy this, notice I have not done anything with absolute or absolute references, so these are all relative references. If I simply click the drag handle and drag it down, it's going to count the number of absences for me. Sound good? Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the tardies. We're going to highlight the same range, but we're going to use, of course, a different criteria. So equals countif, and then the range is this. Same range, but the criteria changes to a capital T. Again, in quotation marks. You have to have the quotation marks. Okay, and then I drag that fill handle down, and it's counted all the tardies and absences. Now, the cool thing about this is if I forget, oh yeah, you know what, Nate Evaldi was tardy on 325, I can go back to 325, put a capital T in there, and it changes the tardies for me. So I can, Ian Kinsler, he decided to be absent, miss a few games. All right. So we've got everything set up here. Now, I really only care about the absences and tardies, but I don't care if they were not. So I want to make those zeros disappear. How do I do that? Think about conditional formatting. I can actually change their background to white and do the same and make those zeros disappear. The value is still there. It just disappears from sight. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to select conditional formatting. Okay, and I'm going to use highlight cell rules. And if I can use either less than 1 or equal to 0. I'm going to use equal to 0. And I'm going to say equal to 0. And instead of light red fill with dark red text, I'm going to use a custom format. Okay, and my font, I want to select color, and I can't select no color, but I can select white, background 1, same as the background. So whatever I change my background to, that color will change as well. Click OK, and they've disappeared. Okay. Now, are there any other formats that I want to use? Maybe. Um, I could make some changes if I wanted to. I could, maybe say, okay, one absence is a yellow, two or more is a red. I could do all that kind of formatting. No big deal. Okay, let's go ahead and do one more thing here. I just want to make this all match. Good. Now we have the title lined up over our attendance sheet, and we've taken care of attendance. We can automatically count the number of absences and tardies. You can see how those functions work. Here, let's do this here. See, we have a total of those. Now, if I want to differentiate the absence and tardy counts, I can do that here. For instance, I might just want to put a line on the side, maybe a left border, but I want to use a thick left border, so I'm actually going to have to go to more borders, and then I'm going to select a thick line style, and on the left border here, I'm going to change that from that grayed out to a thick border and click OK. And now I have that nice thick border that differentiates those two. Look good? Okay, let's do one more thing real quick. I want to do some analytics here. I want to insert a chart. Now, a chart is a really cool thing because I can use this to compare scores. Now, we did do a little bit of a simple bar graph using our conditional formatting on each where the grades are concerned. So we created those percentages, put the bar graphs in, but maybe I want to compare these compare the grades per player. So here's one way to do that. What I can do is I can highlight. I'm going to highlight first name. I think we're good here. We do have we have two Christians, and everything else is the same, but we'll differentiate those later. So I'm going to highlight this chart. I'm going to start with the first name, and I'm going to start with Andrew Benatendi. I'm going to start with his first name. I'm going to highlight this block all the way down to Excel B. I don't want to include the total. The reason I don't want to include the total is it's just not that meaningful right now. All I want to do is compare the assignments. We already have a comparison of the total in the grade column. I want to compare how they did on each assignment. So I have the first name highlighted, and then I have all the data. So what I need to do now is I'm going to insert a chart. And so I'm going to come to the Insert tab, and I'm going to look at Recommended Charts. I can certainly select my own, but I want to start with Recommended Charts and see what it gives me for options. And notice it gives me a preview of the clustered columns here. So I can select any one of these kind of clustered column charts. Notice it automatically gives me a scale. It shows scores on a total of 0 through 9, which is not actually appropriate for what we're doing because that scale doesn't apply to ours. We can also use this cluster column here where we show each player and their series. Now notice here that it also shows series. This preview it shows series 1, series 2, series 3, series 4. Those are the total, or those are each assignment. Let me show you something about selecting these. If I select this top row and then select the data and we go back to the recommended charts, I'll come back down to this, and this actually will select the correct label for each of the assignments. So it has Word A, Word B, Excel A, Excel B. So I'm going to select this one here. It's the clustered column, and I'm going to select OK and put this in here. Now I want to make this a little bit bigger, so I'm going to line this up, kind of make it sort of the same size as that table. Okay, I do need to come in and change the chart title. Um, and we'll uh, and we'll just call this assignment grades by player. And let's try that again without the caps lock. Assignment grades by player. Okay. Now, something else I can do now that I have this in here, I can modify the chart layout and the style. So here's a quick layout change. I can select different layouts. Layout 1 is like that. Layout 2. Notice this one's kind of easy to see. It's clean. Has an appropriate scale on it. Not too cluttered with stuff. This one gives you a lot of clutter because it also includes the numbers. Might be useful in some cases. In this one, I don't feel that it is. Here's another one. One of the things that this does not, or what this has, is the legend. Whereas this one puts a legend on the right side. This one puts a legend at the bottom. I kind of like that a little better. But I can set this up in a whole bunch of different formats. I can include a chart that shows the data for each assignment. I don't need that because I have a chart a grid rather. I think I'm just going to go with this top, either this top right one or this one here that puts it on the right side, kind of angles the lines and everything. Okay, so we've got that set up. One other thing that's not included here are axis titles. So we need to change those axis titles. Make sure you do that, especially on the test. Okay, so this axis title is grade. This is the grade that they earned, and this is the student axis. Okay, so we have our title. Chart title is changed. Our axes are labeled. We have a legend to the right, and we have these have all of our player names or our student names with the corresponding assignment scores. We're just about done. So one last thing, if I select this now, maybe I want to make this chart stand out a little bit. So I can come up here and select a style. And if I bring these styles down, I can choose a whole bunch of different styles for our charts. This one's kind of neat. It has a little fading at the bottom. I tend to like ones with a darker background that make the colors pop. So I'm going to use this style 8 and apply that one. And now we have a finished product. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to do a file, save as, Excel C, and this is, of course, for part 2. You will not have a part 1 or part 2, just last name, first name, Excel C, click save, and turn it into Canvas. All right. If you have any questions, as always, drop me an email, contact me through Canvas, or let me know in any other way that you can contact me. I'll be happy to help you out. Good luck.